Have you ever noticed that some people seem to attract prosperity naturally, while others struggle their entire lives and remain in the same place? The difference isn't in the amount of faith, it's not in the effort, and it's not even in luck. The difference lies in something few understand: the organization of the mind. Napoleon Hill discovered that the human mind functions like a frequency receiver. When it's tuned in, it captures prosperity. When it's in chaos, it repels everything you desire, and most importantly, you have the power to adjust this tuning right now. Before we continue, if you're truly committed to leaving mental chaos behind and entering the flow of prosperity, leave your like now. This shows YouTube that you choose conscious transformation and helps this message reach more people who are ready to organize their minds and allow the universe to respond. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Most people live in a state of permanent mental confusion. They wake up thinking about 1,000 things at once. They spend the day reacting to urgencies. They sleep with their minds still racing, processing everything they couldn't resolve. And in the middle of this inner storm, they ask the universe for prosperity, for peace, for direction. But the signal doesn't arrive, not because the universe is deaf, but because the antenna is misaligned. Napoleon Hill taught something fundamental. The disorganized mind is a field of interference. It's like trying to hear a radio station while 50 other stations play at the same time. The divine signal is being transmitted constantly, but you can't capture it because there's too much noise. Each unresolved worry, each emotional pending issue, each scattered thought creates mental static. And the more static, the less clarity. The less clarity, the less action. The less action, the fewer results. There's a law that governs all of this. Napoleon Hill called it the law of ordered mental vibration. According to this law, everything in the universe vibrates at a specific frequency. Prosperity vibrates at one frequency. Scarcity vibrates at another. Success has its frequency. Failure has its own. And your mind, depending on your state of inner organization, tunes into one of these frequencies. You don't attract what you want. You attract what vibrates at the same frequency as your mind. When the mind is organized, it vibrates at the frequency of clarity. And clarity is the language the universe understands. Think about nature. The sun rises at the right time. The tides obey precise cycles. The seasons succeed without fail. Everything works because there is order. Chaos doesn't produce life, it produces destruction. Order produces growth. And the same law that organizes the cosmos organizes your life when you decide to apply it. Now pay attention. There's a three-pillar method that Napoleon Hill mapped over decades studying prosperous minds. This method isn't theory, it's the mental pattern that every person with lasting success has applied, consciously or unconsciously. I'll reveal this complete method later, but first you need to understand why it works. Because without understanding, the method becomes just another technique you'll abandon in 3 days. The human mind was designed to function in order. When you were a child, before absorbing the chaos of the adult world, your mind had natural clarity. You knew what you wanted. You acted without fear of judgment. You lived in the present. But over time, layers of confusion accumulated. External expectations, learned fears, limiting beliefs. And today, most people don't even realize they're living in a mental state they never consciously chose. Napoleon Hill taught that the unorganized mind is governed by external forces. It reacts to the world, it doesn't create from it. But the organized mind becomes a creative force. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions, it creates the conditions. It doesn't ask permission from the universe, it prepares itself to receive what is rightfully its. And when this preparation is complete, the universe has no choice but to respond. I'm going to give you a practical exercise now. Grab a piece of paper and a pen, or open the notes on your phone, and answer with complete honesty. When was the last time you spent an entire day without feeling anxiety, rush, or mental confusion? A day when you woke up knowing exactly what to do, did it with focus, and ended in peace. If you can't remember, this isn't your failure. It's a sign that your mind is operating in chaos, not in order. Now write down 3 areas of your life where you feel things don't flow. It could be money, it could be relationships, it could be health, it could be purpose. Write down 3 areas. And for each one, ask yourself, is my mind clear about what I want in this area? Do I have a defined plan? Do I act with consistency or with impulse? If the answers are negative, you've just identified where mental chaos is blocking the flow. And here's the good news. The blockage isn't in the lack of capacity. It's in the lack of organization. Napoleon Hill repeated this constantly. You already have everything you need. The human mind is the most powerful tool in the universe. But a powerful tool without direction causes more damage than benefit. Mental disorganization has an invisible cost. It steals energy. You wake up already tired because your mind didn't truly rest. It steals time. You spend hours doing things that don't bring you closer to what matters. It steals faith. You start doubting yourself because you never see real progress. And worst of all, it steals opportunities. You don't recognize the doors the universe opens because you're looking the wrong way. But when you organize your mind, everything changes. The first thing that happens is clarity. Suddenly, you know exactly what you need to do. Not because someone told you, but because the answer emerges from within. The second thing is energy. You stop spending mental strength on worry and start using that strength to create. The third is confidence. When you act with purpose, results appear. And when results appear, faith strengthens. Napoleon Hill taught that the universe doesn't respond to words, it responds to mental states. You can pray 1,000 times for prosperity, but if your mind is in chaos, the prayer has no power. Not because God doesn't hear, but because you're not in condition to receive. It's like asking for water with your hands full of holes. The water does come, but it slips through your fingers. Mental organization is the act of closing your hands. It's preparing the container. And when the container is ready, the universe pours. Not by magic, but by law. The law of ordered mental vibration guarantees that like attracts like. Order attracts order. Clarity attracts clarity. Focus attracts opportunity. And when these elements align, you enter what Napoleon Hill called harmonious flow. Harmonious flow is a state where everything seems to conspire in your favor. The right people appear. Ideas arise at the right moment. Obstacles dissolve. And you don't need to force anything, just maintain the tuning. But this state isn't luck. It's a direct consequence of an aligned mind, and anyone can achieve it, as long as they're willing to do the inner work. Now I'm going to tell you something few people realize. Mental organization doesn't happen all at once. It's built in layers. The first layer is physical. You organize the environment around you. Your room, your desk, your files. This might seem superficial, but Napoleon Hill discovered that the external reflects the internal. When you arrange the physical space, the mind receives a signal. We are creating order. The second layer is emotional. You identify which emotions are controlling you. Anger, fear, resentment, guilt. And instead of repressing them, you organize them. You name each one, you understand where it comes from, and you consciously choose which emotion will govern your actions. Napoleon Hill called this emotional mastery. It's not denying what you feel, it's choosing what to do with what you feel. The third layer is mental proper. Here you organize your thoughts, you define priorities, you create clear goals, you establish daily rituals. And most importantly, you learn to turn off the noise. Most of the thoughts that pass through your mind aren't yours. They're echoes of others' opinions, inherited fears, imposed expectations. Organizing the mind is separating what is yours from what is external noise. And there's a fourth layer, the deepest one. It's the spiritual layer. Here you align your mind with something greater than yourself. You can call it God, universe, infinite intelligence. The name doesn't matter. What matters is recognizing that you're not alone in this journey. There's a force that sustains everything, and when you organize yourself, you become a conscious channel of this force. Napoleon Hill said that the organized mind is a mind that cooperates with the divine. It's not a mind that controls everything, but a mind that flows with the current of life. There's a huge difference between control and organization. Control is rigidity. Organization is flexible structure. Control tries to force results. Organization creates the conditions for results to appear naturally. Think of a river. The water doesn't control the path, but flows with purpose. It doesn't force, but nothing stops it. When it finds a rock, it goes around. When it finds a waterfall, it transforms into a cascade. And in the end, it always reaches the sea. The organized mind is like this river. It has direction, but not rigidity. It has purpose, but not resistance. And therefore, it reaches where it needs to reach. Now, you might be wondering, but how do I do this in practice? How do I organize a mind that's been in chaos for years? The answer is simple, but not easy. You start small. You choose one area, one thought, one habit. And you put order there. You don't try to change everything at once, because mental chaos was born from small accumulated disorders, and mental order is born from small repeated organizations. Napoleon Hill taught the concept of incremental victories. Each small action of order is a victory, and each victory strengthens the mind. Over time, organization stops being effort and becomes a natural state. You no longer need to think about organizing yourself. Your mind simply operates at this level. And when this happens, prosperity is no longer a search, it's a consequence. There's a specific 3-pillar method that Napoleon Hill developed to accelerate this process. And I'm going to reveal this complete method later in this video. But before getting there, you need to understand the invisible blockages that prevent mental organization. There are 3 blockages that 99% of people carry without realizing it. And as long as these blockages are active, any technique you try will be temporary. For now, I want you to make a declaration. Write in the comments, "I choose to align my mind with the frequency of prosperity." Write this not out of superstition, but to mark within yourself the moment the decision was made. Because mental organization begins with a conscious choice, and this choice, when declared, gains power. The disorganized mind lives on autopilot. It reacts, gets distracted, gives up. The organized mind lives with intention. It chooses, focuses, persists. And this difference, however small it may seem, is everything. Napoleon Hill studied hundreds of people who went from poverty to abundance. And all of them, without exception, went through a moment of conscious decision. The moment when they said, "Enough, I'm going to put order in my mind and in my life." This moment can be now for you. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't need background music. It just needs to be real. A firm decision that from today, chaos no longer governs. From today, you govern. And when you govern your mind, you govern your destiny. Because destiny isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build, thought by thought, action by action, day by day. The universe is transmitting the signal of prosperity right now. It always has been. The only question is your mind tuned in? If it's not, stay here. Because in the next blocks, you're going to discover exactly what's blocking the signal and how to remove these blockages once and for all. Napoleon Hill dedicated his entire life to deciphering the laws of the prosperous mind. And everything he discovered is available to you now. Mental organization isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Without it, you live at the mercy of circumstances. With it, you become the creator of your circumstances. And when this happens, when you finally understand that the organized mind is the key to everything, your entire life changes color. What was once weight becomes lightness. What was once confusion becomes clarity. And what was once impossible becomes inevitable. You now understand that mental organization is the frequency that attracts prosperity. But here's what most people don't realize. Even when they try to organize their minds, something invisible keeps pulling them back into chaos. It's not lack of willpower. It's not laziness. It's something deeper. Napoleon Hill spent years identifying why some people could transform their lives overnight, while others remained stuck despite having all the knowledge. And what he discovered changed everything. There are 3 invisible blockages that operate beneath conscious awareness. They're like underground currents that sabotage every attempt at mental organization. You can't see them directly, but you can see their effects everywhere in your life. And the most dangerous part? Most people live their entire lives never knowing these blockages exist. They blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck, when the real enemy is hidden inside their own mental patterns. The first blockage Napoleon Hill identified is what he called scattered thought. This isn't just about being distracted, It's deeper than that. Scattered thought is the inability to hold a single clear intention long enough for it to take root in reality. Your mind jumps from one desire to another, from one fear to another, from one possibility to another, never settling anywhere long enough to create momentum. Think about it honestly. How many goals have you set in the last year? How many times did you say, "This is it, this time I'm really going to change," only to find yourself back where you started a week later? That's not failure of character, that's scattered thought in action. Your mind is like a gardener who plants a seed, digs it up the next day to check if it's growing, plants it somewhere else, digs it up again, and then wonders why nothing ever grows. Napoleon Hill taught that the universe responds to sustained mental frequency, not to fleeting wishes. When your thought scatters, your frequency scatters, and a scattered frequency attracts scattered results. You get a little bit of everything, but never enough of anything. A little money that disappears quickly, a little progress that reverses, a little hope that fades. The universe isn't withholding from you. It's matching the inconsistent signal you're sending. Here's how scattered thought manifests in real life. You wake up determined to focus on building your business, but by noon you're researching something completely different. You set a financial goal, but you can't stick to a budget for more than 3 days. You want to improve your health, but your actions change with your mood. You pray for clarity, but your mind is already racing to the next worry before the prayer is even finished. The invisible cost of scattered thought is enormous. It drains your mental energy because your mind never rests in one place. It destroys your credibility with the universe because you keep changing what you're asking for. And worst of all, it prevents the law of ordered mental vibration from working in your favor. You can't tune into a frequency you won't hold still for. But here's what you need to understand. Scattered thought isn't your enemy, it's a symptom. It's showing you that your mind hasn't been trained in focus. And the good news is that focus, like any skill, can be developed. Napoleon Hill taught that the mind is like a muscle. When you exercise it with intention, it grows stronger. When you let it wander without direction, it grows weaker. The solution begins with a simple practice, single point focus. Choose one intention, not 10, one, and for the next 24 hours, every time your mind wanders to something else, gently bring it back to that one intention. Don't judge yourself for wandering. Just return. This practice alone, repeated daily, begins to dissolve the blockage of scattered thought. Your mind learns that you're serious. And when your mind takes you seriously, the universe does too. Now let's talk about the second blockage. Napoleon Hill called it weak intention. This is perhaps the most misunderstood blockage of all. Most people think they have strong intentions. They say, "I really want this," or "I truly desire that." But Napoleon Hill discovered something profound. Words don't create intention, commitment does. And commitment isn't what you say, it's what you're willing to sacrifice. Weak intention shows up when you want the result, but aren't willing to pay the price. You want prosperity but won't organize your finances. You want peace but won't let go of resentment. You want success but won't give up comfort. The universe doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to commitment. And commitment is measured not by your words but by your actions when nobody's watching. Here's how you know if you have weak intention. Ask yourself, what am I willing to give up to get what I say I want? If the answer is nothing or I'm not sure, you have weak intention. Napoleon Hill taught that every great achievement requires sacrifice, not suffering, but sacrifice. The willingness to trade what you have now for what you want most. The invisible cost of weak intention is that it keeps you in a perpetual state of wishing without receiving. You're like someone standing at the shore, asking the universe to deliver a boat, but refusing to get your feet wet. The boat is there. The universe has already sent it, but you won't wade into the water to claim it. And then you wonder why nothing ever changes. Weak intention also creates a dangerous pattern. You start to believe that wanting something is enough. You confuse emotional desire with true intention. You feel excited about a goal for a few days, then move on to the next exciting thing. But Napoleon Hill was clear. Excitement is temporary. Intention is permanent. Excitement comes and goes with circumstances. Intention remains steady regardless of how you feel. The manifestation of weak intention in daily life looks like this. You say you want to build wealth, but when it's time to learn about money management, you're too tired. You say you want better relationships, but when conflict arises, you avoid the conversation. You say you want spiritual growth, but when it requires discipline, you choose entertainment instead. Your actions reveal what you truly intend, and often it's different from what you claim to want. But here's the truth that will set you free. Weak intention can be transformed into strong intention through a single shift. Napoleon Hill taught that intention becomes strong when you attach it to a compelling reason. Not just any reason, but a reason that moves you at your core. Why do you want prosperity? Not because it sounds nice, but because it will allow you to serve, to provide, to become who you're meant to be. When your intention connects to your deepest purpose, weakness becomes strength. The practice here is to write down your primary goal, and beneath it, write 5 reasons why this goal matters to your soul. Not surface reasons like, it would be nice or everyone else has it. Deep reasons. Reasons that make you feel something when you read them. When your intention is backed by soul-level purpose, the universe recognizes it. And what the universe recognizes, it supports. Now we come to the third blockage, and this is the one Napoleon Hill said was the most subtle and the most powerful. He called it disconnected action. This blockage is particularly dangerous because it makes you feel like you're doing everything right. You're taking action, you're being productive, you're busy, but nothing is actually moving forward. Why? Because your actions aren't aligned with your intention. Disconnected action is when you do things that feel productive but don't actually serve your goal. You reorganize your workspace instead of doing the hard work. You research endlessly instead of implementing. You talk about your plans instead of executing them. You stay busy to avoid the uncomfortable truth. You're afraid of actually trying and possibly failing, so you substitute real action with the appearance of action. Napoleon Hill observed this pattern in countless people. They were always moving, always doing something, but their lives never changed. He realized that action without alignment is just noise. It's like running on a treadmill. You expend energy, you feel tired, you look like you're working hard, but you haven't actually gone anywhere. The universe doesn't reward effort for the sake of effort. It rewards aligned action. Here's how disconnected action manifests. You want financial freedom, so you read 50 books about money but never actually create a budget or start a side income. You want better health, so you buy supplements and workout equipment but never use them consistently. You want spiritual growth, so you collect teachings and quotes but never sit in silence long enough to actually hear the voice within. The invisible cost of disconnected action is perhaps the cruelest of all 3 blockages. It gives you the illusion of progress. You feel like you're doing something, so you don't experience the guilt of doing nothing. But deep down, you know you're avoiding the real work. And that knowing creates a low-level anxiety that never goes away. It's the feeling that you're running out of time while standing still. Napoleon Hill taught that aligned action has a specific quality. It makes you slightly uncomfortable, not overwhelmed, but stretched. When you're taking aligned action, you feel alive, focused, sometimes nervous, but always present. Disconnected action feels safe, comfortable, and ultimately empty. If your daily actions don't challenge you even a little, they're probably not aligned with real growth. The third manifestation of disconnected action is substitution. You substitute the difficult action with an easier one that's related but not effective. Instead of having the hard conversation, you send a text. Instead of creating the product, you perfect the logo. Instead of facing your fear, you gather more information. You stay in the preparation phase forever because the preparation phase feels productive without requiring you to risk failure. But here's the shift that changes everything. Napoleon Hill discovered that when you take one aligned action, no matter how small, the universe responds immediately. Not with the full result, but with the next step. Aligned action creates momentum, and momentum creates more aligned action. It's a spiral that builds on itself, but it only starts when you stop substituting and start doing the thing you've been avoiding. The practice for dissolving disconnected action is brutally simple. Identify the one action you've been avoiding because it scares you. Not the comfortable action, not the preparation action, the one that makes your stomach tighten a little when you think about it. That's your aligned action. And tomorrow, before you do anything else, do that one thing, just that. And watch how everything begins to shift. Now here's what you must understand. These three blockages don't operate alone. They work together. Scattered thought prevents you from forming strong intention. Weak intention leads to disconnected action, and disconnected action reinforces scattered thought because you never stay with anything long enough to see results. It's a cycle that keeps you trapped in the same patterns year after year. But Napoleon Hill also discovered the opposite is true. When you address one blockage, the others begin to weaken automatically. When you train your mind to hold single-point focus, your intentions naturally become stronger. When your intentions become stronger, your actions naturally align. And when your actions align, your thoughts become more focused because you're seeing real progress. It's a positive cycle that builds on itself. The question is, which blockage do you address first? Napoleon Hill's answer was always the same. Start with scattered thought. Because without the ability to focus your mind, you can't develop strong intention or take aligned action. The mind is the foundation of everything. Organize the mind first, and the rest follows naturally. Try to fix the actions without fixing the mind, and you'll just be rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship. So here's your practice for the next 24 hours. Choose one area of your life where you want prosperity, just one. And for the entire day, every time you catch your mind wandering to worries, distractions, or other desires, bring it back to that one area. Hold it there. Feel it. Clarify what you truly want, and notice what happens. Notice how the quality of your thoughts changes. Notice how your intentions become clearer. Notice how you start to see the aligned actions you need to take. This isn't magic. This is the law of ordered mental vibration in practice. You're training your mind to hold a steady frequency, and when the frequency is steady, the universe can match it. But as long as your frequency keeps changing, the universe can't give you anything consistent. It's not withholding. It's waiting for a clear signal. Write in the comments, "I recognize my blockages and I am ready to remove them." Declare this not just as words, but as a commitment. Because the moment you acknowledge what's been stopping you, you begin the process of dissolving it. Napoleon Hill taught that awareness is half the battle. Once you see the blockage clearly, it loses much of its power over you. In the next section, I'm going to reveal the complete three-pillar system that Napoleon Hill developed to not just remove these blockages, but to install a new operating system in your mind. A system that makes mental organization automatic. A system that keeps you aligned with the frequency of prosperity without constant effort. But you had to understand the blockages first, because you can't build a new structure on a broken foundation. The three invisible blockages, scattered thought, weak intention, disconnected action, have been running your life from the shadows. But now you see them. And what you see, you can change. The question is no longer whether you can organize your mind. The question is, are you ready to do what it takes? Because the method exists. The knowledge is here. Napoleon Hill mapped it all out. But knowledge without application is just entertainment. The universe is still transmitting the signal of prosperity. It never stopped. But now you understand why you haven't been receiving it clearly. The blockages were creating interference, and now that you know what they are, you can remove them. One conscious choice at a time. One focused thought at a time. One aligned action at a time. This is how transformation happens. Not all at once, but through consistent intentional shifts that compound over time. Stay with me, because what comes next is the practical system you've been waiting for. The three pillars that will reorganize your mind and align you with everything you've been asking for. Napoleon Hill called this the Mental Alignment Protocol, and it's about to change how you approach every single day of your life. You've identified the invisible blockages. You understand why mental chaos has been repelling prosperity. Now comes the moment you've been waiting for. The complete system that Napoleon Hill developed to reorganize the mind and create permanent alignment with abundance. This isn't theory, this isn't philosophy. This is the practical method that transforms mental organization from an occasional effort into an automatic state of being. Napoleon Hill called this the three-pillar system of mental alignment. After studying over 500 successful individuals across 2 decades, he discovered that every person who achieved lasting prosperity operated on these 3 pillars, whether they knew it consciously or not. The beauty of this system is its simplicity. You don't need hours of meditation. You don't need complex rituals. You need 3 daily practices that take less than 30 minutes combined, but reorganize your entire mental frequency. The first pillar is the pillar of clarity. This pillar addresses scattered thought directly. Napoleon Hill taught that the mind without clarity is like a ship without a compass. It moves, but it doesn't arrive anywhere. The pillar of clarity is your daily practice of defining exactly what you're tuning your mind to. Not vague wishes, but precise intentions. Not someday goals, but today's focus. Here's how you implement the pillar of clarity. Every single morning, before you check your phone, before you speak to anyone, before you let the world's noise enter your mind, you perform what Napoleon Hill called the morning mental mapping. It takes exactly 5 minutes. You need a notebook and a pen, not your phone, not your computer. The physical act of writing engages the mind differently. Step 1 of morning mental mapping. Write today's date at the top of a fresh page. This simple act signals to your subconscious that this is a new beginning, a fresh frequency. Step 2. Write 1 sentence that completes this phrase. Today, my mind is aligned with. Whatever comes after that phrase is your frequency for the day. Not 3 things. 1. This could be prosperity through focused action, or peace through present awareness, or abundance through creative service. 1 clear frequency. Step 3. Beneath that sentence, write 3 specific actions you will take today that match this frequency, not 10 actions. 3. And these must be concrete, measurable actions. If your frequency is prosperity through focused action, your 3 actions might be: complete the financial review, make the difficult phone call, invest 1 hour in skill development. The key is specificity. Vague actions create vague results. Step 4. Write 1 potential obstacle you might face today and how you'll respond when it appears. This is crucial. Napoleon Hill discovered that the mind that anticipates resistance isn't surprised by it. When you've already decided how you'll respond to distraction, fatigue, or doubt, these things lose their power to derail you. You're not reacting, you're executing a plan. Step 5. Close the morning mental mapping with a declaration of readiness. Write, I am mentally prepared for this day. My frequency is set. My actions are clear. I allow the universe to respond. Then close the notebook. This 5-minute practice sets the tone for everything that follows. Your mind now has direction instead of diffusion. And when the mind has direction, the universe has a clear signal to match. But here's what most people miss. The pillar of clarity isn't just about the morning. It's about returning to clarity throughout the day. Napoleon Hill taught what he called the realignment breath. Whenever you notice your mind scattering, and you will notice multiple times a day, you stop for 10 seconds. You take 1 deep breath, and you ask, am I still aligned with my frequency, or have I drifted? If you've drifted, you simply redirect, no judgment, no guilt, just gentle, firm redirection. The pillar of clarity creates what Napoleon Hill called sustained mental pressure. This isn't stress. It's the consistent application of focus in one direction. Think of sunlight. Diffused sunlight warms, but sunlight focused through a magnifying glass can start a fire. Your mental energy, when diffused across 1,000 concerns, just creates warmth. But when focused through clarity on one intention, it ignites results. Now we move to the second pillar, the pillar of constancy. This pillar directly dissolves weak intention by transforming temporary desire into permanent commitment. Napoleon Hill observed that unsuccessful people operate on motivation, which comes and goes. Successful people operate on constancy, which remains regardless of emotion. The pillar of constancy is your system for showing up even when you don't feel like it. Here's the foundation of the pillar of constancy. Napoleon Hill's minimum viable action. This concept changed everything for the people he studied. Most people fail because they set unrealistic standards. They commit to an hour of focused work when they're exhausted, then feel guilty when they can't do it, then abandon the entire goal. The minimum viable action is different. It's the smallest action you can take that still moves you forward. The practice works like this. Choose your most important goal, the one tied to your deepest purpose. Now identify the smallest possible action that serves this goal. If your goal is financial freedom, the minimum viable action might be review one expense. That's it. Not create an entire budget, just review one expense. If your goal is better health, the minimum viable action might be drink one glass of water first thing in the morning. If your goal is spiritual growth, it might be sit in silence for 1 minute. The power of minimum viable action is that it removes all excuses. You can always do the minimum. Always. And here's what Napoleon Hill discovered. When you commit to doing the minimum every single day without exception, two things happen. First, your mind learns to trust you. You say you'll do something, and you do it. This builds internal credibility, which is the foundation of strong intention. Second, the minimum often becomes more. Once you review one expense, you often review several. Once you drink one glass of water, you often prepare a healthy breakfast. Once you sit for 1 minute, you often sit for 5. But even if the minimum stays minimum, you've succeeded. You've proven constancy. And constancy is what the universe responds to, not intensity. Napoleon Hill taught that the universe measures commitment in days, not in bursts. One powerful week followed by 3 weeks of nothing doesn't register. But one small action repeated for 30 days straight, that registers. That sends a signal that you're serious. That you're not just emotionally excited, that you've made a decision. And when the universe recognizes a true decision, it mobilizes resources you didn't know existed. The daily practice of the pillar of constancy is simple. At the end of each day, in the same notebook you use for morning mental mapping, you write one sentence. Today I honored my commitment by, and you fill in the minimum viable action you completed, even if it was the bare minimum, even if you didn't feel motivated. You honor it, you acknowledge it. This creates a chain of evidence that your intention is strong. Napoleon Hill also taught the concept of the constancy calendar. Get a physical calendar. Every day you complete your minimum viable action, mark an X on that day. Your only job is to never break the chain. This visual representation of constancy is incredibly powerful. Your mind sees the unbroken chain and doesn't want to break it. It becomes easier to do the action than to break the pattern. This is how temporary effort transforms into permanent habit. But the pillar of constancy has one more crucial element, the recovery protocol. Because you will miss a day, life happens. Illness, crisis, unexpected circumstances. Napoleon Hill studied this carefully. The difference between people who succeed and people who fail isn't whether they ever break the chain. It's what they do the day after they break it. Failures use one missed day as permission to quit. Success uses one missed day as a test of commitment. The recovery protocol is this. If you miss one day, you must complete double the minimum viable action the next day. Not as punishment, but as proof that the miss was circumstance, not surrender. You don't restart the chain, you continue it with a mark that shows I missed, but I'm still here. I'm still committed. Napoleon Hill found that people who implemented the recovery protocol actually built stronger constancy than those who never missed, because they proved their commitment survives imperfection. Now we arrive at the third pillar, and this is the one that surprised Napoleon Hill the most when he discovered it. He called it the pillar of grateful recognition. This pillar dissolves disconnected action by creating alignment between what you do and what you receive. Most people take action and immediately look for the big result. When they don't see it, they assume the action didn't work. But Napoleon Hill taught that every aligned action produces a result. The problem is, most people are looking for the wrong result. The pillar of grateful recognition trains you to see and acknowledge the small shifts that happen immediately when you take aligned action. These shifts are the universe's way of saying, I received your signal. I'm responding. Keep going. But if you don't recognize these responses, you lose faith and stop before the breakthrough arrives. Napoleon Hill said that gratitude isn't just a nice emotion, it's a form of mental recognition that amplifies the frequency you're already transmitting. Here's the daily practice of the pillar of grateful recognition. Every evening in your notebook, after you've written how you honored your commitment, you write under a heading that says, "Today's evidence." Under this heading, you list 3 pieces of evidence that the universe is responding to your new frequency. These aren't big miracles, they're small synchronicities, unexpected conversations, sudden insights, doors that opened even slightly. For example, today's evidence: 1. I had a clear thought about the next step in my project. 2. Someone mentioned exactly the resource I needed. 3. I felt calm when I would normally feel anxious. These seem small, but they're not. They're proof that your frequency is changing and reality is beginning to match it. Napoleon Hill discovered that people who tracked this daily evidence saw major breakthroughs 10 times faster than those who didn't, because they maintained faith through the lag time between action and visible result. The power of grateful recognition is that it closes the feedback loop. You take aligned action. You recognize the immediate response, even if it's subtle. This recognition strengthens your belief. Stronger belief creates stronger intention. Stronger intention leads to more aligned action, and the cycle accelerates. Without this pillar, most people give up right before the breakthrough because they don't realize how close they are. Napoleon Hill taught a specific phrase to use during the grateful recognition practice. After you've written your 3 pieces of evidence, you write, "The universe is responding. I am ready for more." This phrase serves 2 purposes. First, it acknowledges that the response has already begun, which is truth. Second, it declares your readiness for the next level, which signals to your subconscious that you're not settling, you're expanding. But there's a deeper layer to the pillar of grateful recognition that Napoleon Hill emphasized. Gratitude isn't passive, it's active. It's not just feeling thankful, it's taking action from a place of already having received. When you operate from gratitude, your energy shifts from desperate wanting to abundant creating, and the universe responds to the energy of creation much more powerfully than the energy of desperation. Here's how this manifests practically. Before you take any important action during the day, you pause and say internally, "I am grateful for the result that is already forming." Not, "I hope it works." Not, "Please let this succeed." But gratitude for the result that hasn't appeared yet, but is already in motion. This isn't delusion, this is alignment. You're matching the frequency of someone who has already received, which magnetizes the receiving toward you. Napoleon Hill called this acting from the end. You don't act from where you are, hoping to get somewhere. You act from where you're going, pulling it toward you. And the pillar of grateful recognition trains your mind to operate from this frequency automatically. Every evening, when you acknowledge the day's evidence, you're reinforcing that the process is working. You're building unshakable faith based on actual observation, not blind hope. Now here's what happens when you implement all 3 pillars together. The pillar of clarity gives you direction. The pillar of constancy gives you momentum. The pillar of grateful recognition gives you magnetic pull. These 3 forces working together create what Napoleon Hill called the prosperity vortex. You're no longer pushing against resistance. You're creating a gravitational field that pulls opportunity, resources, and synchronicity towards you. The 3 pillars take less than 30 minutes total each day. 5 minutes for morning mental mapping, 5 minutes for minimum viable action, 5 minutes for evening evidence and grateful recognition, plus the 10-second realignment breaths throughout the day whenever you notice drift. That's it. Less time than you spend scrolling social media. But the impact is incomparable, because these 30 minutes organize your entire mental frequency for the remaining 23.5 hours. Napoleon Hill tested this system with hundreds of people. Some were broke, desperate, on the edge of giving up. Within 30 days of implementing the 3-pillar system, every single one reported tangible shifts. Not miracles, shifts. Clearer thinking, better decisions, unexpected opportunities. improved relationships. And within 90 days, over 80% had experienced what they considered breakthrough results in at least one major area of life. But here's the critical part that Napoleon Hill stressed. You cannot skip days. You cannot do this when you feel like it. The power is in the constancy, not the intensity. 1 month of perfect consistency will transform you more than 1 year of sporadic effort, because the transformation isn't in the actions themselves. It's in the message you're sending to your subconscious and to the universe. I am serious, I am committed, I am ready. Write in the comments, I commit to the 3-pillar system starting tomorrow morning. Don't write this lightly, only write it if you mean it, because the universe is watching, not to judge you but to know whether to mobilize resources on your behalf, and it only mobilizes for those who prove commitment through constancy. The 3 invisible blockages, scattered thought, weak intention, disconnected action, cannot survive in the presence of these 3 pillars. The pillar of clarity destroys scattered thought by creating singular focus. The pillar of constancy transforms weak intention into unbreakable commitment. The pillar of grateful recognition aligns all your actions with reception. Together, they don't just remove the blockages, they install a new operating system. In the final section of this teaching, I'm going to show you what happens after you've implemented this system for 30 days. Napoleon Hill documented a specific shift that occurs, a shift he called the State of Magnetic Readiness. This is when mental organization becomes so natural that you no longer have to work at it. This is when the universe stops testing you and starts flowing through you. This is when prosperity becomes inevitable, not because you're forcing it, but because you've become the type of person it naturally flows toward. Everything you've learned so far has been preparation, the understanding of mental frequency, the identification of blockages, the installation of the 3-pillar system. But now comes the transformation. Now comes the state where organized mind meets divine response. And when that meeting happens, your entire life reorganizes itself to match your new frequency. Stay with me, because what comes next is the evidence that this system works, and more importantly, how to sustain it for life. You now have the complete system. The 3 pillars of mental alignment. Morning mental mapping for clarity. Minimum viable action for constancy. Daily evidence for grateful recognition. But here's what Napoleon Hill discovered that most teachings miss. The system itself isn't the destination. The system is the training ground. What you're really building toward is a state of being where mental organization becomes so natural that it's no longer effort. It's just who you are. Napoleon Hill called this the state of magnetic readiness. It's the point where your mind stays organized automatically, where aligned action becomes your default response, where prosperity flows to you not because you're chasing it, but because you've become the type of person it naturally seeks. This state doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen, and Napoleon Hill mapped exactly when and how it occurs. According to his research, the state of magnetic readiness typically emerges between day 30 and day 90 of consistent practice with the 3-pillar system. Something shifts inside you that's difficult to describe but impossible to miss. You wake up and realize you're no longer forcing yourself to focus. Your mind naturally holds clarity. You're no longer struggling with commitment. Constancy has become your identity. You're no longer searching for evidence. You see it everywhere without trying. This is the moment when mental organization transitions from discipline to identity. You're no longer someone trying to organize their mind. You are someone with an organized mind. And this shift in identity changes everything, because the universe doesn't respond to what you do occasionally. It responds to who you are consistently. When mental organization becomes your identity, prosperity has no choice but to become your reality. But here's what you need to understand about this transition. It doesn't feel dramatic when it happens. There's no lightning bolt, no cosmic revelation. It's subtle. You simply notice one day that the anxiety is gone. The constant mental chatter has quieted. The urgency to force things has dissolved. And in its place is something Napoleon Hill called peaceful certainty. You know the results are coming. Not because someone told you, but because you can feel the momentum building. Napoleon Hill documented several signs that indicate you've entered the state of magnetic readiness. The first sign is what he called effortless focus. You sit down to work and hours pass like minutes, not because you're forcing concentration, but because your mind naturally sustains attention on what matters. Distractions still exist, but they don't pull you anymore. It's like your mental frequency has locked onto a signal so strong that the noise can't interfere. The second sign is synchronistic flow. Opportunities appear at exactly the right moment. The person you needed to meet shows up unexpectedly. The resource you required becomes available just as you need it. The solution to a problem arrives through a random conversation. Napoleon Hill was clear. This isn't luck. This is your frequency matching the frequency of the things you're seeking. When the frequencies match, attraction is automatic. The third sign is emotional stability. The highs aren't as high and the lows aren't as low, not because you've become numb, but because you've become steady. You understand that temporary circumstances don't define permanent reality. You trust the process so deeply that external chaos can't shake your internal peace. Napoleon Hill taught that emotional stability is the clearest indicator that your mind has achieved true organization. The fourth sign is perhaps the most powerful: accelerated manifestation. The gap between intention and result shrinks dramatically. What used to take months starts happening in weeks. What used to take weeks starts happening in days. This isn't magic. This is the compound effect of sustained mental alignment. Every aligned thought, every aligned action, every moment of sustained frequency builds on the previous one. And at a certain point, the momentum becomes unstoppable. But Napoleon Hill also warned about something crucial. The state of magnetic readiness attracts not just prosperity, but also tests. The universe wants to ensure you're truly ready for what you've been asking for, so it will present situations that challenge your new organization. Old patterns will try to reassert themselves. Old fears will knock on the door. People from your past might reappear with drama or distraction. These aren't signs that the system failed. These are signs that it's working. Napoleon Hill called these readiness tests. They're the universe's way of asking, are you really committed to this new frequency? Or will you drop back into old patterns at the first sign of resistance? How you respond to these tests determines whether you sustain the state of magnetic readiness or lose it. And the response is always the same. Return to the 3 pillars. Don't abandon the system when it's being tested. That's when it matters most. Here's what happens to people who pass the readiness tests. The state of magnetic readiness deepens into what Napoleon Hill called immovable faith. This isn't blind faith. This is faith built on evidence. You've seen the system work. You've watched your life transform. You've experienced the synchronicities. So when obstacles appear, you don't panic. You know they're temporary. You know the momentum is still building beneath the surface. You stay aligned and let the universe do its work. Napoleon Hill studied people who sustained this state for years, even decades, and he found a common pattern. They all developed what he called a prosperity consciousness. This isn't about thinking positive thoughts or repeating affirmations. It's a fundamental shift in how they perceive reality. They stop seeing scarcity and start seeing abundance everywhere. They stop seeing obstacles and start seeing opportunities. They stop seeing competition and start seeing cooperation. The external world hasn't changed. Their frequency has, and therefore what they attract from that world has completely transformed. But the most profound discovery Napoleon Hill made was this. Once you achieve the state of magnetic readiness, you become a generator, not just a receiver. You don't just attract prosperity for yourself. Your presence begins to elevate others. Your calm becomes contagious. Your clarity inspires those around you. Your constancy gives others permission to commit. You become a living example of what mental organization can create. And in becoming that example, you multiply the effect exponentially. This is the ultimate expression of organized mind-meeting divine response. You're no longer working to organize yourself. You're allowing the universe to work through you. Napoleon Hill taught that this is the true meaning of prosperity, not just having resources, but becoming a resource. Not just receiving abundance, but becoming a channel through which abundance flows to others. When you reach this level, lack becomes impossible. Because you're no longer holding on to anything. You're flowing with everything. Now, let me show you how to sustain this state for life. Because that's the final piece most teachings ignore. They get you to the breakthrough, but they don't teach you how to maintain it. Napoleon Hill discovered that the state of magnetic readiness requires one thing above all: non-negotiable daily practice. The 3 pillars must continue. Not because you're broken and need fixing, but because mental organization, like physical fitness, requires maintenance. Think of it this way. If you build strong muscles through consistent exercise, then stop exercising, the muscles atrophy. The same is true for mental organization. If you achieve clarity, constancy, and grateful recognition through daily practice, then abandon the practice because you feel you've made it. The old patterns gradually return. Not immediately, but slowly. And before you realize it, you're back in chaos, wondering what happened. Napoleon Hill called this the eternal vigilance principle. The price of sustained prosperity is eternal vigilance over your mental state. But here's the beautiful part. Once the 3 pillars become habit, the vigilance doesn't feel like work. It feels like self-care. Those 30 minutes each day aren't a burden. They're the foundation of your peace. They're the source of your power. They're the ritual that keeps you aligned with your highest self and your deepest purpose. There's one more practice Napoleon Hill recommended for those who reach the state of magnetic readiness. He called it the weekly calibration. Once a week, you take 15 minutes to review the entire week. You look at your morning mental mappings. You review your constancy calendar. You read through your daily evidence entries. And you ask yourself 3 questions. Where did I stay aligned? Where did I drift? What will I strengthen this coming week? This weekly calibration serves 2 purposes. First, it shows you the patterns. You begin to see what triggers pull you out of alignment and what practices keep you steady. Second, it reinforces the identity shift. Every week that you see evidence of your constancy, every week that you acknowledge your progress, you're telling your subconscious, this is who I am now, not who I'm trying to be, who I am. And that message, repeated weekly, becomes unshakable identity. Napoleon Hill also taught that the organized mind naturally seeks contribution. Once your own life is in order, you'll feel a pull to help others organize theirs. Not from ego or superiority, but from genuine desire to share what worked. This pull is sacred, honor it. When you share the 3-pillar system with someone who's ready, you're not just helping them, you're deepening your own alignment, because teaching clarifies understanding. And every time you explain how mental organization creates prosperity, you strengthen that truth in your own consciousness. But be discerning about who you share with. Napoleon Hill warned that not everyone is ready. Some people are still in love with their chaos. They complain about their circumstances, but resist any solution. Don't waste your energy trying to convince them. Your job isn't to convert anyone. Your job is to live as proof. When people see the calm in your eyes, the clarity in your words, the results in your life, the ones who are ready will ask. And when they ask, share generously. Now let's address the question you might be thinking. What if I implement the 3-pillar system perfectly for 90 days, and I still don't see the prosperity I'm hoping for? Napoleon Hill encountered this question constantly, and his answer was always the same. Check what you're defining as prosperity. Most people define prosperity so narrowly that they miss all the ways it's already showing up. Prosperity isn't just money, though money is often part of it. Prosperity is peace of mind. It's clarity of purpose. It's the ability to sleep well at night. It's relationships that nourish instead of drain. It's opportunities that align with your values. It's the inner knowing that you're on the right path. Napoleon Hill taught that if you organize your mind and your material circumstances don't immediately change, your internal circumstances absolutely will. And the internal always precedes the external. Be patient with the lag time. The universe operates on perfect timing, not your preferred timing. Every aligned action you take is a deposit into an account that will pay out. But you don't control when the payout arrives. You only control the consistency of the deposits. Trust that the universe is organizing things behind the scenes in ways you can't see. Your job is to stay aligned. The universe's job is the timing and the method. Don't confuse the roles. Here's the truth that Napoleon Hill wanted everyone to understand. Organized mind doesn't guarantee you'll get everything you think you want. It guarantees you'll get everything you actually need. And often, what you need is different from what you think you want. The universe has a higher vision for your life than you do. When you organize your mind and align with divine flow, you're not just attracting outcomes. You're being guided toward your highest purpose. And that purpose might look different than you imagined. Better, just different. So if you implement this system and your life transforms in unexpected ways, don't resist. The universe didn't get it wrong. You were limiting the vision. Stay open, stay aligned, and watch how the unfolding exceeds your original request. Napoleon Hill saw this happen countless times. People asking for money received purpose. People asking for recognition received peace. People asking for specific outcomes received something so much greater they couldn't have imagined it to ask for it. This is the ultimate gift of mental organization. It removes your small human limitations and connects you to infinite intelligence. You stop trying to control every detail and start trusting the larger design. You become a co-creator with the universe instead of someone trying to manipulate it. And in that partnership, miracles become normal. Not because the impossible becomes possible, but because you realize it was never impossible. You were just too disorganized to see the path. Let me leave you with the final teaching Napoleon Hill gave on this subject. He said that every person is exactly one decision away from a completely different life. Not 10 decisions. 1. The decision to organize your mind and keep it organized no matter what. Everything else flows from that single choice. Your organized mind creates aligned action. Your aligned action creates momentum. Your momentum creates results. Your results create evidence. Your evidence creates unshakable faith. And your faith creates the life you were born to live. The system is simple. 3 pillars, 30 minutes a day, 90 days of constancy. That's all it takes to reach the state of magnetic readiness. But simple doesn't mean easy. It means non-negotiable. You will face resistance. You will encounter days when you don't want to do it. You will question whether it's working. These moments are the making of you. Push through them. On the other side is a version of yourself you can't even imagine yet. A version that lives in flow. A version that attracts prosperity naturally. A version that has become the organized mind Napoleon Hill spoke of. You have the knowledge now. You have the system. You have the understanding of how mental organization creates the space for divine response. The only question remaining is, will you do it? Not just read about it, not just think about it, not just admire it. Will you actually implement the 3-pillar system starting tomorrow morning? Because knowledge without application is just entertainment. And you didn't come this far to be entertained, you came to transform. The moment of decision is now. You can close this video and go back to mental chaos, hoping things will somehow change on their own. Or you can commit to 30 days of the 3-pillar system and discover what happens when organized mind meets divine flow. Napoleon Hill taught that the universe moves heaven and earth for those who prove commitment through action. First, organize your life, create the structure, maintain the frequency, and then watch as God, as the universe, as infinite intelligence takes care of the rest. Not because it owes you anything, but because you've become ready to receive. If this message shifted something in you, if you recognize that mental organization is the missing key you've been searching for, take action now. Leave your like on this video, subscribe to this channel, and most importantly, write in the comments, "I commit to organized mind for 90 days starting tomorrow." Make that declaration public. Not for me, for you. Because when you declare commitment publicly, you activate a different level of accountability. You're telling your subconscious and the universe that this isn't casual interest. This is life-changing decision. Share this video with someone who's ready for transformation, someone who's been stuck in mental chaos but has the courage to change. When you spread this knowledge, you multiply its power in your own life. The universe rewards those who serve, and sharing truth is the highest form of service. Your prosperous mind is waiting. It's not something you need to create. It's something you need to uncover by removing the chaos that's been covering it. Organize your thoughts, align your actions, recognize the evidence, and allow the divine to do what only the divine can do. The signal has always been transmitting. Now you know how to tune in. The only question is, will you maintain the frequency? Everything changes when you organize your mind. Everything. Start tomorrow morning. 5 minutes of morning mental mapping. Throughout the day, aligned action and realignment breaths. 5 minutes in the evening of grateful recognition. 30 days of this and you'll be different. 90 days and you'll be unrecognizable. Not to others, but to yourself. Because you'll have become the person you were always meant to be before chaos obscured the vision. First, organize your life. Then watch as God takes care of the rest. This isn't religious doctrine. This isn't spiritual fantasy. This is the law Napoleon Hill discovered after studying 500 successful lives. Mental organization creates the space for divine response. And when that space is ready, prosperity flows not as a maybe, but as an absolute. Your organized mind is your greatest asset. Treat it as such, honor it daily, and witness the life that unfolds when clarity replaces chaos. The transformation starts now, not someday, now. Welcome to your organized mind. Welcome to your prosperous life.